Yeah, I'll see you all in hell, too. You remember that. Every one of you, I'll see you in hell.
Beyond the exterior of the outlaw lifestyle lies a dark reality of kidnapping, extortion, and even more unfathomable crimes. Stay to the end to hear how 3 men took matters into their own hands.
Police need your help finding a man wanted for murder.
Take a look at him, 47-year-old Jay Witt. He faces a second-degree charge of murder in the death of 48-year-old William Furlong. Police found his body at the Hells Angels headquarters at 27th and J last month.
On the 14th of July, 2013, a high-ranking member and a prospective member of the Hells Angels got into a fight at the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club building in Omaha, Nebraska. Jay Witt and William Furlong, both 48, were having a disagreement when Witt allegedly pulled out a gun and shot Furlong. Unfortunately for Witt, Furlong couldn't survive the inflicted wounds and was eventually found deceased. A warrant was issued for Witt's arrest. Investigators were then able to track Witt through the GPS in a vehicle he had stolen before arresting him around 2 weeks later. Following his arrest, Witt was charged with second-degree murder, as well as charges for the use of a weapon to commit a felony and possession of a weapon by a felon. In response to these charges, during his October 2014 trial, a judge found Mr. Witt guilty of the crimes. However, the second-degree murder charge had been dropped in favor of a manslaughter charge following an earlier guilty plea, which Witt made in exchange for the dropping of his murder charge. While in court, one detective testified that she had found Furlong's body lying face-up near the bar area of the clubhouse. Another testified that surveillance footage from outside the clubhouse had shown a man similar to Witt enter into the clubhouse with his girlfriend at around 2:15 a.m., less than 3 hours before Furlong appeared. The video in case showed the man who resembled Witt and his girlfriend leave around 9:30 a.m. with a plastic bag before he's once again spotted, wiping down the door and door handles of a Chevy Cruze with towels before leaving in the vehicle. The woman in the video was identified in court to be Tammy Kozak, and she was charged with tampering of evidence and accessory to murder. And a sergeant in the court testified that she, along with Witt, had stopped at a gas station after they fled the scene before they drove to Harlan, Iowa, probably to get away from the center of the crime. During his court hearing, Witt maintained an ice-cold demeanor, just as you would expect from any Hells Angel. But at the end, the judge sentenced Witt to 30 to 40 years in prison, of which the first 17 and a half must be served before he would be eligible for parole. Witt showed no emotions after listening to his sentence, and even reportedly claimed he did it out of self-defense. Furlong's wife was present in court and came to the defense of her deceased husband, saying he shouldn't be judged by his outward appearance. Witt sadly died in September 2019 at the Nebraska Department of Correctional Services, following a long battle with illness. He was 53 years old at the time, and state law required that a grand jury conducted an investigation into the situation.
Hells Angels just shot at Vagos. There's 2 down.
Let's head to Henderson, Las Vegas, where things escalated into attempted murder on a local highway between 2 rival motorcycle gangs. It was a Memorial Day Sunday morning on the 29th of May, 2022, when members of the Vagos Outlaw motorcycle gang were shot at on a highway while riding back from a Memorial Day event in Boulder City. The perpetrators? Some members of the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club, of course. Police were able to arrest 3 of the suspects, 66-year-old Richard Rizzo DeVries, along with 46-year-old Stephen Allo and 26-year-old Russell Smith. DeVries was eventually identified as the president of the Hells Angels Las Vegas chapter, one of the most powerful chapters of the club, while the other 2 were said to be Hells Angels prospects. Police reports recounted that while the Vagos members were trying to participate in the prior event, a group of 5 Hells Angels members were seen riding around and followed them till they began to cause problems during the event. They also reportedly left the event about 20 minutes before the Vagos members began riding towards Henderson, where they waited to ambush the Vagos gang. The result was injuries to 6 of the Vagos bikers and a closure of the highway for several hours, as the police conducted an investigation while the injured bikers were transported to a local hospital for treatment. Investigators, in collaboration with the Las Vegas Met Police Department's Criminal Intelligence Unit, were able to identify the 3 suspects using surveillance footage, as well as civilian footage of the shooting. This ultimately led to the June arrest of DeVries and the other 2 men who were booked into the Henderson Detention Center on the charges of 6 counts of attempted murder with a deadly weapon, a single count of conspiracy to commit murder with a deadly weapon, 6 counts of battery with the use of a deadly weapon causing substantial harm, 6 counts of discharging a gun at or into an occupied structure or vehicle, with the latter 2 charges labeled to have occurred with a criminal gang enhancement. 5 additional Hells Angels were also indicted by a second Clark County grand jury in connection with the incident, and additional charges included attempted murder, racketeering, as well as harboring concealed weapons. A Las Vegas former special agent, Aaron Rouse, suggested that the arrests could lead up to a federal prosecution for the Hells Angels on RICO charges based on the group's activities. That kind of thing has the potential to dissolve the Hells Angels Las Vegas chapter. DeVries was able to post bail following his indictment by the Clark County grand jury. His court appearance was set for the 24th of August, 2022, where he appeared with his attorney, Richard Schoenfeld. But on the 3rd of October 2022, he was rearrested and taken back into custody on additional felony charges, which included racketeering. In the court, he showed a cool and calm demeanor, as if to suggest to the court that he had it all under control. This time, 8th District Court Judge Tierra Jones ordered DeVries to be held on a $250,000 bond, which he once again posted. During a separate court hearing set on March 31, 2023, which involved all the other suspects, DeVries' attorney, Richard Schoenfeld, suggested that the evidence used to indict the Hells Angels members was insufficient. He also claimed that Vagos members had concealed weapons during the incident, and that police at the scene had examined some of their handguns only to return them. As a result, the judge instructed prosecutors to revise the indictment. On Monday, May 1, 2023, Clark County District Judge Tierra Jones decided that the 7 alleged Hells Angels members would not be facing racketeering or gang charges for their involvement in the highway shooting, which left a total of 7 people injured. During the hearing, Judge Jones also reduced the number of shooting counts from 25 to 5 in the case against the defendants, including Richard DeVries. DeVries' attorney, Richard Schoenfeld, revealed his pleasure at the judge's ruling, claiming that the initial indictment was too broad and had to be revised. DeVries, along with the other 6 men, which now include Cameron Treach, Aaron Chun, and Ryan Molasco, still face prosecution on charges of attempted murder, battery, and assault with weapons. And even though they've all pleaded not guilty to the charges, they each face up to 40 years in prison if convicted. A trial date has been set for the 28th of May, 2024, a day short of the 2-year anniversary of the incident. For now, the 7 men, including Richard DeVries, are free, but they could be facing the same fate as others on this list by the time you watch this video.
Yeah, I'll see you all in hell, Louis. Remember that. Every one of you, I'll see you in hell.
Let's head to Hampden County Superior Court, where a dramatic scene unfolds when Caius Veiovis was to be sentenced for 3 counts of murder. Caius Domitius Veiovis, real name Roy Gutfinski, was born in Augusta, Maine, and was a self-proclaimed vampire and Satanist with a bizarrely distinct look. His implanted head bumps, which resemble horns, his reshaped earlobes, and his dozens of tattoos, including one on his forehead which reads 666, certainly don't paint the look of an angel. As far back as the year 1995, a 13-year-old Roy Gutfinski Jr., who had already developed a fascination for devil worship, was already getting into serious trouble with law enforcement. When he was 20, a prosecutor recommended that he be kept behind bars for as long as possible following a ritual bloodletting case with his then-girlfriend, which left a 16-year-old girl scarred for life. Gutfinski ended up serving a 7.5-year sentence for this. Gutfinski struggled with substance abuse from a very young age and was in and out of jail a lot between the late 90s and mid-2000s. He constantly referred to himself by the police as a vampire and began to alter his looks, which ultimately culminated in legally changing his name to Caius Veiovis after a vampire from the TV series Twilight in 2008. In 2011, 3 men, David Glasser, Edward Frampton, and Robert Chadwell, were found buried outside of Pittsfield, Massachusetts 10 days after they were reported missing. There were 3 suspects: 37-year-old Adam Lee Hall, 47-year-old David Chalou, and Caius Veiovis himself, who was 34 at the time. Prosecutors accused Veiovis of helping the other 2 men kidnap and shoot the victims in order to prevent them from testifying after they witnessed the death of Glasser, who himself was eliminated to prevent him from testifying in a case against Hall, who was a high-ranking member of the Massachusetts chapter of the Hells Angels. Veiovis' trial began nearly 3 years later in September 2014, as he was already pretty notorious at the time, so it was no surprise when a media frenzy erupted around the case due to his involvement in the case. During the trial, both Hall and Chalou were convicted of 3 counts of murder, kidnapping, and witness intimidation, and sentenced to life in prison. Veiovis was the last out of the 3 men to face trial, and he pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. Despite the various pieces of evidence which suggested his involvement in the murders, Veiovis' trial was a rather lengthy one and had to be moved 50 miles to Hampden County Superior Court in Springfield to avoid a biased jury. Veiovis tried to maintain his innocence for as long as possible, claiming that he had rejected all the plea deals offered to him from the beginning and that he'd rather do life than accept any of those deals. His court-appointed attorney, James Reardon, also accused the state of lacking concrete evidence against his client. After over 37 hours of deliberation spanning 6 days, the jury found Veiovis guilty of kidnapping, murdering the 3 men, and he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the option of parole.
As to each of the 3 counts of murder, impose a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
And Veiovis' reaction to the jury's verdict was something you could have expected. "I'll see you all in hell. Remember that."
Yeah, I'll see you all in hell, Louis. Remember that. Every one of you, I'll see you in hell.
He also revealed that he was going to appeal the verdict to the state Supreme Court. Veiovis, meanwhile, is currently completing his term at Gardner, Massachusetts, North Central Correctional Institution. These Hells Angels ended the lives of many and destroyed the lives of many more. But in the end, they got what they deserved. If this video was an eye-opener, make sure you check out the next video.